doesn't have to introduce that tonight he's using the wheelchair rules from Mustang Arts.
Oh, yes. So nice every time I don't have to do that.
But still, thank you for letting us use those, Mustang Arts. We are here doing our Council of Tamrinor world building session, and this time we are going to focus on something interesting, I think. I hope that each time we've focused on something interesting, this intro's going well. We've got an interesting topic to focus on this week because I want to talk about monsters. Because they're a thing that we need in the world of Tamrinor, not the real world.
I got in the wrong chat. Sorry, I thought we were talking about real world stuff.
I've split the world of Tamrinor up for us all into sort of, how many did I get in the end? 10? 9.
Quite a few.
9
8.
biomes. 9 biomes I split the world up into so far. Hey, Law. Hello. Lullaby Law says, just popping in as usual to say hi and show support, smiley face.
We appreciate it.
We do. I split the world up into 9 areas, and I sort of wrote a little blurb about each of them, and I've sent them all to each of you, and I've had to think about them as well. I've got four potential creatures, maybe 5 for us to talk about from my own notes. And then I'm curious to see what you guys have been thinking as well for these. And the intention is to boil this down to get, ideally we want 3 for as many of these places as we can. And the idea is, for this particular one, these should be generic monsters. I'm not looking specifically for Old One Eyes, the big fish guy. We're looking for that thing over there, like a sheep, a goat. Hey, Madame Bug, you are also here today. Hello.
Hi. Good to see you as well.
Good to see all y'all. All y'all.
Always nice to get as much support as possible.
And if you guys in the chat have any ideas for monsters as well, do feel free to share them with us. I can put all the words in the order. Let's, however, switch on over to this view because our drafting board looks a little different because Goat's actually drafting, I guess, is what's happening tonight, rather than my normal note-taking. Goat
Got a
sketching.
charismatic little guy. Got a good little guy.
We got a little guy here.
The camera's around an awful lot, so do tell me if you need to be stabilize it somewhat more. I know that from the notes that there was a cute little lizardy guy, so I was like, oh, let's draw a little lizardy guy.
I mean, that is fair. Shall we talk about the little lizardy guy first, then, especially as he's also number 1 on my notes list?
Makes some sense.
So the first space that we are going to discuss is Erum, the harsh desert with high temperatures, strong winds, and little in the way of natural water. Now, there is Sanctuary Springs, where there is a sanctuary and some springs. And there is also Taradim, which there is a river that runs near it because there has to be some reason that people could settle down there, and people need water. But outside of that, there's very little natural water in the desert. The environment is harsh and unforgiving, with mysterious null zones that cancel out magic. Nights would be cooler, so probably we're looking at some nocturnal creatures in the desert. very low humanoid population, which might lead to areas with large monstrous creatures. And the creature that I believe is being drawn at the moment, I've given the current temporary working name of Thaumandizer, or the Null Lizard. A large lizard creature that is either bathed in the Null Zone's energy and now radiates, that has bathed in the Null Zone energy and now radiates magical nullification itself and feasts on magical power.
Sorry, what was the other name for it?
Thaumandizer.
Someone's about to get Thaumandized.
Yeah.
Ew.
So my thought was this was a typical little lizard that does have a tendency to just like bathe in the null zones and therefore mutates. And it's a fairly commonly documented mutation that they turn into this slightly bigger magic-eating lizard.
A lizard that is so normal that magic ceases to exist when you look at it. It's just a little guy.
I like the idea of that. It's just so normal, just like gives magic just gives up. That's very I feel that's very Discworldian.
It is very Discworld. It's very Discworld coded.
So the
could
other
that be used as a weapon though? Could there be like, is it a field? Is it like an anti-magic field that extends from it, or is it just the creature itself?
I mean, my notes were that because it is bathed in the null field, it radiates, like when it leaves the null zone, it now radiates that nullification energy.
Oh, that's a defensive. Well, I say defensive weapon, right there, isn't it?
Yeah. And obviously the name Thaumandizer. Thaum is obviously magic, and
you could have them kept, the rich people keeping them as pets so they don't get magicked to death.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you could have a hell of a boss battle when it came down to it, literal stages, just as he keeps them as pets so that he stays under the radar. And when he really wants to take things seriously, he's trained these lizards to run away from him as fast as possible, and potentially over to his enemies who might just happen to have magic radiating from them, nullify them, while he all of a sudden becomes a lot more powerful.
Suddenly his latent sorcery abilities come back to him, and he can do the things that the Thaumandiers have been feasting on.
It definitely could be some kind of what's the word? Herbal use for them. If you have someone that's like afflicted with rather harsh wild magic sorcery,
yeah,
it could be a remedy for that.
An interesting way to treat wild magic.
The other side of things, you could also imagine there being... We have effectively come up with a reason why magic users can't escape prison as well, if you think about it.
This is true.
Just a load of lizards.
You have the lizards walking around.
Yeah,
I think we found the local town's biggest export. They send out hunters searching for these things so they can sell them.
Or you could have the Thaumandizer breeders as well, effectively having a farm of them just for the sake of trying to make the best ones they possibly can.
Yeah, I think we found a new market, a new economy here.
I mean, maybe this is something that Taradim has set up on. Like they are the exporters of the Thaumandizer.
You thought you were making a monster, instead you've made a market.
We've made a worse thing. We've made capitalism. I mean, I suppose the other...
we are thinking with human brains. It's what we do.
The other side of it is maybe they don't export the Thalmundizers, maybe they import the wizard and sorcerer prisoners. Like they have the one prison that magic users can't escape from. Maybe it doesn't go out, they come in.
Just digging
Oh, no
holes
magic.
all day. So they're so knackered they can't do anything even if they tried.
Yeah. The other note of creatures that I had for Arium, which is 1 to potentially 2, I suggested a flightless bird of some variety to be sort of a swift way of traveling through the desert.
Okay.
Something like an ostrich or an emu style creature that could serve as a one-person mount to cross the desert.
Emu, please. It's like riding a tank.
True. And then the other...
That would be a real trick as well. The other side, you have it as an emu that they are dangerous. It takes a skill to be able to actually troll them as well. Only particular people do it, not in case everyone can.
The other part of that note is that we do also need to consider that trade routes do exist within the desert, and therefore we need something of a size that could pull caravans and be a pack animal. So obviously the earth answer for that is the camel.
Yep.
But I don't want camels because
No.
that's dull. So I was thinking, could we have something like a domesticated bullet?
Okay.
Some sort of like large lizard thing. I don't have a name for it, but that's up to you guys. That's what you guys are here for.
See. I do kind of like the idea of it being effectively like the bullet, but I feel like something that big being in the desert is probably going to be detrimental to itself. But going on with the whole lizard side of things, I could see, you know, in Jurassic Park where you got that the lizard which flares out its neck.
Dilophosaurus doesn't actually do that, but yeah.
Yeah, I know it doesn't. But
apparently they went with rule of cool on that one, but yeah, yep.
There's
But
everything for Jurassic Park, to be fair.
what I was going for was more along the lines of effectively a larger animal which is able to do that. It effectively provides itself shade.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of looks, and it does that to intimidate. It's a rather strong thing, so it can take from when the huge amount of sandstorms come by that it doesn't sort of just rip through. So it's got like a very thick, leathery skin in order to be able to do this, which it can provide its own shade to sort of. Basically, I'm thinking like almost like taking the bullet, effectively making its armor plating almost rip itself from its skin so that it can create like a giant shield which it can adjust around itself.
If you look at what was it? I believe it's not Stegosaurus. But some of the it is Stegosaurus. Some of the biological explanations for the sails on Stegosaurus's back is that they were a method of heating and cooling for the animal, that it could just turn and face the sun throughout the day to allow it to heat and cool accordingly. So if it wanted to cool down, it would stand with its plates pointing towards the sun. If they needed to warm up at a right angle to the sun. I think that's a thing that at least has been theorized in the organic world, as well as sunflowers, which exist today. They throughout the day turn to face the largest surface area face towards the sun to heat themselves, or for them, I guess, gain more ATP through photosynthesis. Look at some emus now. Emus.
Ooh.
Emus are strange little creatures.
That could actually be. I was wondering if someone had actually done like a time lapse of sunflowers where you actually see them turning their heads in like a creepy way.
Why do you say that? Apparently, there's some time lapses where people have tried that again, and apparently they're not turning now, and no one knows why.
Oh,
is that more or less worrying?
sunflowers
Yes.
have stopped turning.
Sunflowers have stopped turning. The sun has stopped working.
The sun doesn't work anymore.
So what? I don't know. What names are we giving these two? Because I don't want to just call them emu. I don't want it to just be an emu. I want it to be like an emu.
Like an emu, eh? So it only changes into an emu with the full moon, eh?
No. No. No.
It's a wary mew.
A weremu.
I kind of like the idea of having something like razor in the title because if we say its beak is like got a serrated edge, I want to say I was like thinking razor beak, but that's a transformer.
Yeah, that is a
Supposed
transformer.
to axe beak as well, there.
Axe beak's taken,
Yeah.
sadly. Yeah, but I do like the idea of it being like a razor, something like a razor or something. Razor bill or thing.
Razor feather. Razor.
Oh, no, there's actually a razor bill. That's a bird.
Damn you, real life.
And everybody else who's already taken all these names.
And the Transformers.
Remember Transformers?
Let's see.
Just looking at my list of names
got
and
a-
seeing if I can stick any on together. Go ahead, Ben.
Raisfax. A resfax.
Okay. How are you spelling that?
I must say, I'm doing a very similar thing to you, John. Literally, let's take a look and see if I can fix this to anything. So what I'm thinking is R-A-Z
Yeah.
P-H-A-X. Raisfax. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I do like your point there, Geoff, that razor and that sort of cutting sort of feel to it feels like it's needed. And considering that, well, Dungeons and Dragons already has the axe beak and all that side of thing, try and come up with one of our own, I think is quite nice. And especially for this kind of bird, which I'm going to place down, it is going to be a fighty sort of bird. It has to be. As I say, we are sort of thinking like emu sort of thing. Like you leave them alone unless you're very desperate.
Or you're very sure you've tamed them.
Exactly.
So I put a large flightless bird like an emu with razor-sharp serrated beak that can be tamed with great training and otherwise are left well alone.
I think aesthetic-wise, you could combine the previous point about the animal wanting to gain heat from sunlight and wanting to remove heat by having like some kind of Stegosaurus-esque anatomy point, which could also be like the derivation of the title. Because having a cool fun beak is one thing, but you could be like, oh, it's got like a razor appendagey thing.
Oh, like razor fins down its neck or something.
Ooh,
yeah, something like that could be cool.
It helps if I put all of the E's in desert to write this out.
Also, as well, thinking for the sake of the desert and the whole taking caravans across, I must admit that another one which I was thinking of was like a mixture between Avatar and Pokemon. Effectively, is having a creature which can create great gusts of wind, or is indeed made of wind, but trying to figure out how to harvest that without worrying about null zones is another matter entirely. You could just imagine if I've got an air elemental. That's a null lizard. We don't have an air elemental anymore.
We have an air elemental. Oh god, it's in the sand! Ah! I like that I can do all of my typing this time and not have it being scrutinized by people. This is fun.
I'm worrying, I'm waiting.
You spelled that word wrong.
I fixed it with the spelling checker, don't worry. I mean, I like the idea of this, like the large bullet-esque lizard creature that has this like neck frill that it can put out as a way of cooling itself off. But how about if it could also use that as a fan on command? To
I like it.
naturally generate the breeze. Because then we're not doing something magical to make a wind.
No, very true. And also be loved by people who are having to go through the desert themselves just for the sake.
I'm thinking, is the name Fanfin too childish for a giant, ugly-looking lizard thing?
I'd say that sounds just like a Pokemon.
Or is Fanfin just right?
I would like
Sounds
for that
like
to be more like the colloquial term. It's the more. It is a.
You're a Fanfin tamer.
It's the nickname. Yeah, exactly. It's the nickname of the creature rather than it being the actual creature. But it has a proper name, but it's been so used that Fanfin is effectively the most used version of.
Okay, so I'll leave it. What is its full name?
Why did I put that down? Why did I have to say that?
Why did you say that? What have you done?
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Let's see.
I made the same spelling grammar error again.
How about a Jacobast?
Yeah?
Hold on. Type that into our little chat so that you...
Apparently, young sunflowers will follow the sun. The flowers are following a natural circadian rhythm to receive the most sun. The simple answer is that bees like warm flowers, and flowers facing the sun are the warmest.
Huh.
So as a sunflower gets older, it stops facing the sun.
Interesting.
So Finfan or Jacobast.
I would love for the reason why they don't use Jacobus is for the sake of the person who named it they disowned or something like that. They like the creature, just hate the person who came up with the name.
Or it's kind of like the supposed answer for the kangaroo's name. Which I don't know how accurate it is, but it supposedly is the local language for I don't know. I
love as an idea.
I don't know how accurate a statement that is, that it actually is that or not.
There are many a mountain in the world called Mountain. If you actually translate it from native speech, it makes a lot of sense for that to be true. Because, the amount of thing where they'll point, so, what's that called? A mountain. Oh. We will title it Mountain.
Is there not one in... there's not one somewhere in England called Hill, isn't there?
I actually got this proven, but yes, it does. It's one of those things where if you break up its title, it does say Hill in 3 different ways. But at the same time, it got this proven that was the case, that it really wasn't what had happened. But at the same time, for the sake of tourism, they don't really want to sort of scream and shout too much about that. So it's been a sort of subtle thing of, still Hill. Yeah, I think Tom Scott did a wonderful piece on it at one point.
Oh, yeah.
I really need to watch more of his videos.
I do love his videos when it comes down to
He's done some great stuff.
I very much enjoyed the one I watched recently on the Austin Moon Towers.
Have you seen the one about the Royal Albert Hall?
No, but I should.
Well, is that the one where he's on the roof of it?
That's one where he's on the roof of it, yes.
I've seen bits of that one, actually.
What I do love is their version of the British space program, where we actually made a fully functional spacesuit and didn't do anything else.
Well, you got the start down.
Oh, exactly. We've got the important parts. And I'm afraid, Madam Bug, we are going to keep giving you tons of things to look up. We're going to keep you occupied either by us or by what we're going to talk about. Because we're mean like that. This is what we do. Tell your friends, we'll punish them as well.
Okay, so that's 3 creatures for the Erum, the Thalmondizer, the Razorhax, and the Finfan, or the Fanfin. Finfan or Fanfin? Fanfin.
One of them is just a Pokemon name.
Fanfin.
I mean, they both sound like... It does kind of sound like more like the... Fanfin is going to be the evolution of the Finfan.
Fanfin. Finfan.
Yeah.
It went through some real like
You're gonna have to make a trading card game in our world now. Just
the second location, and I have some potential notes on this one as well. Is the Trieste mountain range. So, actually, before we leave the desert, did anyone have any other notes for desert-dwelling things?
The only other thing which I had was effectively for... I've been working on something in my head and I haven't quite been able to get it down quite right, which is effectively making, like... What I want is like our version of the sand snake or sandworm.
Okay.
But it doesn't attack in the manner of biting and inducing poison or anything like that. It's a rather passive sort. It instead traps victims, and the whole point is it wants you to decompose so it can get your nutrients from the sand. So effectively makes sections of quicksand by manipulating the sand itself. So you get trapped in the sand, and then after you have ceased to be, it can come and do what it needs to, whether it be eating the decomposed part of whatever it was. And it could even be laying its eggs, doing all sorts of different things. There's a myriad of things they can do with the victim, which is now in.
Bug says, is it a giant snake or a lot of little snakes?
I kind of like the idea that being a lot like other snakes in the world, which is they can grow up to an incredible length. We don't actually know the longest one. We only know the longest one we've found so far, which is the reason why I went for snake rather than for worm. So the whole thing is that there can be small ones and there can be incredibly large ones. The whole point of the desert is that it is so unknown and hasn't been as explored as other places that there could very well be one where one of these snakes has prospered amazingly.
I mean, I also like the idea that the null zones and the weird magical shifts mean that sometimes things just happen.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that the most common ones, the ones which people would see on more likely, are going to be smaller. Just sort of say that they are the ones where people have come back from.
The ones that people talk about are the ones that they've survived.
Exactly. It's very hard to talk about the ones you haven't survived. Especially in a world where, in a location in the world where magic is sort of suppressed, and it's very hard to actually do. It's hard to talk to the dead when you can't actually cast the magic.
Okay. So do we have a name for this thing? I like it. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's funny, I haven't come up with a name for it yet. I'm now doing it once again. Quick look through. Let's see if we can find something which feels nice about it. So, any suggestions I'll go with as well.
Any thoughts, Geoff?
Nothing for this one.
I feel it's got to have the quicksand in it in some way.
Yeah.
Quicksand.
Or trap, or trapdoor, or lure.
Tremor.
Working off the tremor would be quite nice, actually, yeah.
Tremora?
Sounds quite nice.
Tremora.
Tremora.
Tremora. That's a Pokemon name.
Tremora.
But Tremdra.
Oh,
Tremodra.
I put in Tremora. I put in Tremora and it auto-corrected it to Tremors. So I've now put in Tremodra and it has not auto-corrected it. So Tremodra is clearly the right name. A species of sand snake that can grow very large if left alone for extended periods of time, or can be warped by the wild and unpredictable. The reticulated python is the world's longest snake. It's native to South and Southeast Asia, and the world's third heaviest snake after the green anaconda and Burmese python, says Bug, who is apparently now just Googling things we're talking about.
Snake fact.
Hey, when it comes down to it, we're getting information from all around. We can use this for other sorts of... We can make our world so much worse thanks to it.
They've said, oh God, I don't know if this is to further snake information or to the fact that we've called them out on Googling everything.
Well, see, with that, they might have found something absolutely horrifying, in which case, do tell us. We'll put it in the game.
We'll just make it bigger.
Well, exactly, destruction. That's good destruction. I will say my favorite thing when it comes down to the amount of things when it comes down to the longest snake and all this sort of thing, usually has to have a little thing next door to saying on record or has been found. It's like, yeah, it's a giant snake. It's the biggest snake we've found so far.
It's the very biggest snake that we know about at the moment. Please God, be the biggest.
Well, speaking of big animals, what about and I'm just literally just coming to the top of my head, some form of sand-dwelling jellyfish?
Ooh. That's an interesting idea, actually. Especially if we do keep it very much like the jellyfish of the sea, which is brainless as well. But baffles people as to how they stay alive in the first place.
Have you read the Sherlock Holmes story, The Lion's Mane?
No, I can't say I have.
Yeah.
Right, let's put it this way. I might have, but I can't remember distinctly right now.
I'm assuming it's one where somebody gets poisoned by a jellyfish.
Yes. Said to be. I think the lion's mane is supposed to be like by size or by area, the largest animal the largest creature in the world.
I've put sand-dwelling jellyfish. We can come back to that. Because I think it is time to move on to the second biome, which is the Trieste mountain range. The mountains at the north of the continent of Tamrinor feature rolling hills that rapidly transition into sheer bare rock snow-capped mountains. Despite this, the mountains are densely, for mountain ranges, populated, being the home of the avians and dwarves, with the primary homes of the halflings nestled in the foothills. Creatures in the mountains will have either adapted for climbing or flying, or at the very least, gliding. Will most likely be smaller creatures.
I was thinking birds, big birds of some sort.
No, I put down large birds. And I'm guessing Ben probably also had similar ideas.
That's actually, I was thinking away from the birds. I was thinking more for the sake of the rock. Considering that we have a species which is literally made from the rock.
Ooh.
Kind of figuring maybe they're not the only ones.
Okay.
So I'll let you guys with the birds, considering we've got a lot more going with the birds at the moment anyway.
So I've got
Because-
two creatures that I've put in as Bug says tigers are bigger than lions. That doesn't help with birds, but you know.
When it comes down to it, once again, we'll always take on any bit of random advice. We like it.
We'll bring comments
Because
in
we'll
as
use
they
it
come
somewhere.
in.
Because we will use it somewhere, that's fine.
So mountains, I thought goats. Not just because goat is here. But I also thought one of the things that we've not really named in the streams yet is we have discussed that there was an automaton-esque race of creatures that lived in the early stages of Tamrinor. And so my thought is the goats that live in the Trieste Mountains are forged goats.
Nice.
They are metallic goats that prance through some of the steeper foothills of the Trieste mountain range. They seem to appear out of nowhere and eat any metal they can find and then disappear again. Some say that they are ill omen and will appear before doomed adventurers waiting for an opportunity to consume their weapons and armor, while others suggests that their stomachs are filled with diamonds, which is a tempting proposition for treasure seekers. I don't know if we want to come up with I don't know if we want to come up with a better name for the artificial race than the Forged. But I do like the name the Forged.
It's nice and simple, to the point.
It's nice and simple. It is a riff on sort of where we've previously had I know that, for instance, when we had Steel as a part of the Clutches of the Cult group, Sean was saying that he wasn't a Warforged, he was a Forged.
To be fair, with just that one callback, I kind of like that as an idea.
I like the idea as well that it's not their own, it's a name that someone else has given to them based on what they look like rather than an actual species name.
It's also sort of that
it's a very dwarf, it's a sort of name sort of our dwarves would give, wouldn't it?
It's I suppose part of it is supposed to be like none of them are around anymore to name themselves, or those that are still around don't really remember what they were called at the time. It's been, so long that they don't know what it was that they were called, so why not go with what everybody else is saying they are?
Some sense.
Do we want to come up with another name for the Forged Goat? Or just stick with Forged Goat?
It feels like quite clinical, which seems to be in keeping with the already quite clinical name of the Forged.
I was going to say, when it comes down to it, for the sake of the built or the forged side, yeah, they would be very much, this is that, this is this.
Yeah.
It feels like how a naming convention would absolutely go by.
Let's go far too fluffy.
I think there would absolutely have to be something like that at one point.
I do just like the idea that the goat just like, you as a group of adventurers are near the base of the Trieste Mountains, and you look up and you just see this metallic goat just looking at you from the distance.
I would love to play on their whole aspect of the goat as well, and the goat's abilities in real world, sort of exemplified for the sake of it. So in the mountainous regions, the way that their hooves are designed is that they can sort of like let out little tendril bits of metal effectively to grip on better way. People have absolutely swear blind that they have seen goats standing upside down on cave mouths, literally clinging to the roof, just looking at them
Just
before
this
running off
pair
as
of
if there's.
glowing eyes from the top of the cave, and just
And because
meh.
no one can really.
Meh.
It's one of the. It's the way that the hooves are designed that they will literally spread apart ever so. It's so subtle that no one can see it. So it is literally the goat does, and then goes away, and it's like, did you see that? Did you see? It was
I didn't see that.
there.
I
It was
didn't, I, didn't,
there.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that, and neither did you.
Nobody saw that. It's fine. We're moving on. Nobody saw anything. Meh. The other thing the other one I have noted for the Trieste mountain range is a very light note of something that came up while I was talking with Sean about the mountain ranges. And that was the idea that if the avians fled there to get away from the raptors and to sort of settle down, then something was probably there already.
Yeah.
And something that stopped others from chasing the avians up into the mountains. And so possibility of there being some form of large bird-like creature, some sort of large eagle or rock-like creature that lives around the Trieste Mountains that could either act as something to be very scared of if it is not a tamed one. If it's a wild, whatever we end up calling it, it's something that you want to steer very well clear of, but also could potentially be like the avian equivalent of a beast of burden or cattle.
An idea which I like to sort of expand off of that
Yeah.
is effectively one of them in particular is the largest of that species. So it's a potential of what it can grow into, and it can all grow up to that one. And if I said the cult of the lobster, would you know what I was talking about? This is a real world thing, the cult of the lobster.
No.
Okay, so in our real world, it was theorized that there may not be a upper limit to the age or size of a lobster. They will just continue to grow, as far as we
Okay.
know.
Bug is
There is a
running to
cult
Google.
group. Yeah.
I've
There is a
heard this
cult
as well.
group that has basically decided that we are going to help this particular lobster grow. And we are going to do it throughout the centuries, and we're going to have people constantly down and down and through the years. We are going to help this lobster grow, and this is going to be our new god. We are going to make a Cthulhian-sized lobster eventually. And we are all going to worship, and it will treat us kindly because we have treated it kindly. And I kind of like the idea of effectively, without that intention, is what's happened here. They came across this bird which was enough to scare the others away. It was big enough. It had its nest and all this sort of thing. So the avian they end up looking after and effectively treating it well enough that it looks after them as if they are its own children. If you are kind to the avians, it will be kind to you.
I mean, it's kind of, I guess, like the fact that crows and ravens can hold a grudge. Or
Yes,
if you treat
exactly.
them nicely,
And
you
it's
know, they'll pay you
that
back.
special. Exactly, it's that bird intelligence, and effectively just sort of mixing in, as I say, that the cult of the lobster sort of feel that because it's been looked after so nicely, rather than having to scavenge out and find food, find bits and pieces, it's been given more of an opportunity to grow properly.
So are we now suggesting that this is not, in fact, a large... Bug says, it's essentially karma. Don't be a...
Yeah, that is a big trick of it all. But yeah, what I was saying is that if there is literally one, it is a species of bird which do get rather large, so they can still be used for like travel and stuff like that, or bringing items up, of commerce, anything along those lines. But effectively, these are, you cannot touch them. They are meant to be allies. They're meant to be friendly. If you attack one of them and they figure it out and the word gets by or another bird happens to see, you're screwed because that entire lot are going to be after you in particular.
So are we suggesting that these are not, in fact, giant eagles, but very large crows?
I do kind of like that as an idea, to be fair.
I like it actually. Yeah.
Because the other side of it, it might also give it more of a reason why the raptors stayed away. A giant black bird just spread its wings, flying over the valley is a terrifying thing to see. But because the Avens didn't have much of a choice, they went in and sort of proved themselves that, no, we're not going to cause you any harm. I do like that as an idea. I really like that as an idea.
Okay. I feel that we need to take either core or thus or viday and jam another word onto it. Morviday?
More of the day.
Morviday.
More of the day. So we're just saying that there's more of the day now.
Triceravus. Yeah. I think I found a Triceratops, apparently. Oh, wait. Oh, well.
Yeah?
You know the other part of this. What did we decide that Lawfell was called before it was Lawfell?
Oh, God.
We called it Raven Seat.
Oh,
Yeah.
that works so nicely.
I think we just found the ravens.
Yeah.
Ravus? Mirviday.
Feel with the raven. I feel like the ra. We need a ra.
Ramanta.
Anta.
Ramanta.
Ramanta.
Ramanta. Ralph. Ralph. Now that is a wonderful idea. Yeah.
Ramanta. Giant
Oh dear God.
ravens.
Sorry. I'm just going through a random generator for the sake of, different, trying to get different names for this, bird folk for this, that, trying anything. What pops up in bird folk? Groot.
I am Groot. Are we okay with
God.
Ramanta?
I don't know. I like Ramanta.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good name.
If I just put giant ravens as the only note,
That is perfectly fine, I think.
I think I can decipher that later on when I'm writing this up. I also have put down that the forged goats can effectively spider climb on the mountains.
God, that is a point as well. I mean, hell, if you really want, for the sake of building up storyline, that is an excellent point, Madam Bug.
You can teach
Ravens
ravens to
can mimic talk. It's not perfect, which makes it ever so much more creepy. But can you just imagine that as like your security detail, effectively? As the people who are walking up, and all of a sudden you just hear, "Who goes there?" Just cawed out in the distance. But it doesn't sound humanoid in the slightest. It doesn't sound like it's natural.
With just this giant.
Exactly.
My one sounded more like Mickey Mouse.
It did.
So
I don't think you're going to get too
that's-
many people running away
that's
from that
not
one.
as
I think
spooky.
the temptation is a case of asking, I don't know, maybe like Queen Creeps might be able to get a better one for the sake of the high pitch with a wispy nature to it. And just ask so we can get a little recording of just something whispered on the wind. As it sort of echoes through the chamber, it gets distorted the entire time.
Does anyone have anything else they want to add to the Trieste mountain range?
Right, so this is what I came up with. Basically, it is our version of ogres.
Okay.
So, taking from how the dwarves are forged from stone, effectively, or chipped and cut from the stone itself, my mind went to what happens if they don't get chipped out, or the spark is left in and it just grows and embeds more and more, but doesn't actually, because it hasn't got so much in the community, or hasn't got someone actually looking after it, its mind
It's
gets
just
a bit more twisted.
natural.
It is the pure natural, and it just grows. Effectively, almost like saying that the pure and perfect time to get them out is when the dwarf's at the dwarven size. If you leave them, they manifest and they grow and become
Okay.
great boulderish sort of things, which is effectively our versions of ogres. Or the trolls, or something along those lines. I literally just imagine these great boulders which are almost like stuck in the rock. But if enough motivation from themselves can literally rip themselves out of it. Because all
like
they've
it.
gained is the mass and the power of the rock and the mountain itself. Before they just sort of rip themselves out. And I've called them Brurok.
1 second. How are you spelling that?
BRUROK.
Yep.
And though I didn't, because I haven't actually watched Frozen 2, I can imagine it is something very similar to almost like, I'm imagining like in the first Frozen where you had Marshmallow, the giant ice. That is effectively what I'm imagining, just rock. It forced itself out, and it is rock version of that.
What Olaf is to the how do I put this?
That is effectively it. It is
what Olaf is to the
Marshmallow.
dwarves. Marshmallow is to the Brurok.
Yes. And I hadn't even thought about making that analogy, but I'm very glad you brought that up. Though I have no idea about what's in Frozen 2. I know that you do have the rock trolls in Frozen, but obviously they're actually the rock trolls in Frozen are probably closer to the dwarves than they are for anything else if we actually think about it. And I have not even thought of that analogy for the amount of time that we've been doing this. Wow, I hadn't even thought about that. We have literally got we've made our dwarves basically like the trolls in Frozen.
Which are very like, that is a traditional troll-esque appearance.
Oh god,
in European trolls.
And okay, I think the way that they actually sort of come to be is different and all that side of things. Where literally the dwarves chip out and carve the new young from the stone compared to effectively. Well, I don't know how they reproduce in Frozen. I must have missed that scene.
They don't go into much detail.
No, it's such a shame. We'd love to see some rocks being thrown together.
You just have to find other ways to get your rocks off. Did you have anything else for the Trieste Mountains?
No, that's all I really have for that. Obviously, with the Brew Rock, it does open up the possibility of different sized versions of what they could effectively twist themselves into. But it was literally just the concept of the ogre, effectively, which just literally ripping itself out from the side of the mountain is such an idea which I liked so much. I had to get that one down.
I like the idea that like there's the Brew Rock, and then like the Brew Rock summit is like the pinnacle creature.
Well, this thing you could really throw in for effectively, because you don't know how large they grow or how this growing works.
Yeah.
There could be literally a mountain out there which is a Brew Rock.
Entirely a Brew Rock.
And it's just had no reason to get up, but as time goes by, because it's so spread out throughout this entire mountain, its mind has almost been stretched out as well. This is the thing which I wanted to place down, was effectively that they're not thick, they're slow. Because imagine like your brain has been grown to a huge size. It now takes longer for any thought pattern to sort of shoot through your brain. You imagine that it gets up to the size of a mountain.
I wonder if
it will
Geoff's...
be incredibly slow.
I wonder if Geoff's thoughts have gone to the same place about Discworld trolls as mine just went to.
Mine just went there a long time ago, the moment you started saying creatures made out of rocks.
I mean, that's fair. On the Discworld, if trolls get super chilled, they get smarter because their brains are silicon.
Fair enough.
There's a lot going into Discord trolls as well. With the idea that
I need to get a lot more into the Discworld side of things. I've been reading through a few of them slowly through sequence.
there's another thing that says that the rock that trolls are made from relates where they're born. So there's one troll called Brick because he is made of bricks because he was born in Ankh-Morpork.
See, I like that.
And the that's a spoiler though, so I can't say that one. There's one particular troll who is the most intelligent troll for a very good reason.
Fair enough.
For more details, read Thud.
I will be making sure that's on.
I literally just this afternoon or early this morning, because I was out this morning, I remember when things happened today. My watch didn't charge, so I've gone throughout the day with no watch. It's very frustrating. Just finished listening to Reaper Man, which
I love Reaper Man.
If you've not read it, it's very good, and you should. And if you have read it, it's very good, and
should read it again.
Maybe read it again.
It's probably one of my most read books, actually. Most read Discord books.
I mean, not only do you get things like Cyril the dyslexic chicken, who after getting over his memory issues of not being able to remember cock-a-doodle-doo, discovers that he is also dyslexic after Death writes down the script for him, and so each subsequent time he tries to crow in the morning, it's a different collection of letters, as Cyril's small insane bird mind has suddenly learnt, like after Death tells him that you will read this, he suddenly very quickly decides he needs to learn to read. And so like the next time he crows when the sun rises, it's Dockaloodle Fod.
The other great bit I loved about that, not to belabor the point, another great bit I loved about that book is how shopping malls come about.
Yes.
People find lots of like little souvenir snow globes. So like you find a souvenir snow globe of your city and it's great, you want to keep it. And then it hatches.
Because it's not just a souvenir snow globe, it's a city egg.
It hatches into a trolley, supermarket trolley.
Oh, wow.
because what is a
What we're saying is basically go read Discworld.
what is a giant shopping mall but a parasite that lives on the edge of town and feasts on the people? Does anyone have anything else to add to the Trieste Mountains?
Not at the moment, I'd say.
Okay. Ben, I'm out of notes of what monsters I want to add. Where else have you got things for? We can skip to what notes you have.
Okay. I have one in particular which is for the Maelstrom, which I've been working on more than anything else.
Okay.
So
to read the Maelstrom for everyone, to the east of the continent, past the corrupted lands, lies a large maelstrom in the sea, making passage by sea very difficult, if not impossible. The swirling storm could be home of either large flying monsters that roost on the small rocky islands, or aquatic sea beasts. It is constantly stormy weather.
Oh, we need deep ones there.
Oh, I definitely think we need some deep ones there as well. I wanted to create one which, basically, this is where they came from, because the Maelstrom, obviously, this great impulsive amount of evil, effectively.
Yeah.
And I don't have a name for this one, though. At the same time, I think it's difficult to give a name to it anyway. But I came up with this idea of effectively a creature that looks completely different to every single player.
Okay.
Whoever looks upon it sees something completely different. And it's not necessarily based on fear or anything like that. And it'll be completely random, where one might see a spider, another person might end up seeing a giraffe, which doesn't even come from this continent. I've never seen an animal which looks like that in the first place. It is chaotic. The whole thing is for it to create enough confusion. No one will ever be able to tell you what it looks like or what it is, so when it comes down to it coming to attack you, you'll never know what it's going to do. It is effectively a creature of chaos, which has, as far as anyone can say, it doesn't seem to have a physical form itself. It must do, but no one can be sure
No one
exactly what it is.
Because no one can see it.
Exactly. And there hasn't been an attempt so far to, say, bring a null lizard next door to it to try and see whether maybe it will force it into its shape or whatever it might be. All that's known about it is that there'll be a lot of confusion. No one will know exactly what's going on, and they'll see random things. Everyone will be seeing different items or different bits and pieces, but the unique side of thing which I ended up seeing was just literally this whole concept of something like, do you see that over there? It's moving quick. The person looks over and sees a chair on wheels that just happens to be rolling by. Says, it's nothing, it's fine. And
I think
so
Goat
potentially
may
could be
be trying to
hallucination.
draw this, but
But effectively
Everyone got
comes
your thumbs up. I'm just like, you know what's fine.
But overall, with this whole thing where it could be literally anything, all that it's known is that it attacks viciously. When it's given its opportunity, when it feels like it has a chance, it is very difficult to kill, to strike, because you don't know where you're hitting. Where you believe that you see a body and you strike into it, there might not be anything there, and you'll notice as soon as your blade goes straight through it. It is almost like it's a creature made of illusion.
okay.
And your only real good option to take when it comes down to it is to get away from it as fast as you can. It's not to say that you can't defeat it. It's more on the lines of, that's what the survivors have said.
Okay, can we come up with something to call it?
And here's
A shimmerling.
Oh, I like that.
Cute name.
Just immediately as well. That sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. Do you have anything else?
The thing which I had was when it came down to the Forged Ruins, which is a very similar thing to the Ogre, effectively. It's almost like one which is more from there, which is these artificial ones who effectively have built themselves. They might have been sort of been scrapped down and might have been knocked down and have had to rebuild themselves, so they are effectively an amalgamation of whatever they've been able to grab hold of.
Okay.
So basically, I got the idea from watching the what is it now? Attila Battle Angel or something like that.
That's Angel Alita.
That's the one. And in particular, that race scene, a deadly race, and pretty much amalgamation creatures. So relatively humanoid. They do actually think in these ones they might have just sort of let their humanity go a little bit. It's not to say that you couldn't potentially torture them down or whatnot, or convince them that actually you're on their side and such forth. But I just like this whole thing of effectively where there once was a creature which was more designed for demolition is now taken that arm and placed it on here, and it now stands sloppily to one side because it can't quite take the weight, but if it spins enough it can use the arm in a manner. It's figured out a different way to work about. And I wanted to call them the Amalgai. They literally name themselves for the sake of what they are. We amalgamate, we are the Amalgai. And they're quite happy
guy
to...
like GUI?
GUI.
GUI.
That's it. Literally to the whole point where they're quite happy to either rip off limbs so that they can put a different one on if they feel like it's going to be better suited for them in the situation which they're in.
I mean, to be fair, why limit the number of limbs?
Yeah. Well, this is it. You now open up the we have the potential to bring in... Hello there.
Kenobi.
I love the fact I don't need to say anything more than that and everyone gets it.
Okay.
And I will apologize to Goat because I know that that's also a difficult one to sort of try and draw or come up with, considering that once again multiple shapes. But yeah, they are the main ones which I've sort of come up with. I suppose over to Geoff. Geoff, do you have any ideas?
If it's the Maelstrom, I was thinking more like a fish people race. Well, I've actually got to have some sort of fish person race in there somewhere, haven't we?
Well, I think we've decided that we've got some nice fish people race that live on the other side of Tamrinor, so we could definitely have some not
evil
so nice
offshoots.
fish
God,
people
that would make some
race.
sense, actually. You end up thinking that the ones which were on the Maelstrom side couldn't get away.
Yes.
You get killed or corrupted.
Well, the question is, couldn't get away or didn't want to.
Well, that's true.
Couldn't
What?
makes it more tragic for them.
Yeah. What lives in, like, sirens? Yeah.
Nino.
It could effectively be like the sirens.
I was going to say, is there anything that, like, specifically lives in fast-moving water?
Not quite the ones which I'm thinking of.
like tuna and things like that when they're going upstream, pikes.
So it's trying to think for the sake of. I'm guessing you mean more like open ocean.
Well, I mean, yeah, like obviously there is nowhere in the world where it's constantly a storm, but if we could have,
If I were going to try and take reference, I'm sort of thinking of like One Piece now with the fishmen from there, and they tend to stick mainly thinking on the main predator creatures of the sea. So you usually see a lot more inspiration from the different types of sharks.
yeah,
You get a lot with the octopi.
I think sharks is a good place to go,
I think sharks is a very good place to start off with.
or
Because we can
orcas.
elaborate, yeah.
Bug suggests
Orcas.
orcas.
Actually, orcas is a very good option as well.
Killer whales are bastards, as
Yeah.
they are very smart killers. So, I mean, killer whales, humanoid killer whales could be very interesting.
True.
Like
I'm
large,
conjuring the silliest fishman I can conjure up.
large
Like the
ogre-like
different
fish
yeah.
people.
Yep. You can also imagine a few scrawny ones, almost like sent in to be like you are almost like a sacrifice of sorts. They don't expect you to do much, but in your end, so thinking like the puffer fish of sorts, where you are an extremely poisonous once they kill you. You can make yourself look threatening by making yourself look big and all that side of things, but it's almost like you're trying to get them to stab you. You're trying to get them to pierce into you, so you
Because you'll
release.
squirt poison over them.
Exactly. I'm not going to say we make suicidal bomber or anything like that. That's going too far, but effectively, they want to get injured because that's where they get their main power from. And it will debilitate you immediately, which immediately throws things into their favor.
Okay.
So it's a really odd thing. It's almost like their aim is to run in, to get stabbed effectively, to then get away again. Because when they get stabbed, they release like a poison cloud if they puff themselves up. And in so being able to break away, they've now already poisoned you. They don't need to do anything else. They can leave that for the bigger fish. The bigger fish can come and fry you. I think it might come down to the fact that they could use aquatic creatures as well, for the sake of almost like weapons and such. Especially the sharks, I'm imagining, as we're placing them down with a lot more of a vicious mentality coming from this. Of like dragging octopi out of the sea, just so they can squirt their ink. Like, literally just like, we're going to squirt this so we blind you and all that side of things.
Orcgas. Orcga. Orcga. I don't have a name for the pufferfish yet, but we can come up with that. So we've got a couple of places that we've not really talked about yet. I hope we're not showing off anything spoilers there, Goat.
That's all good.
A couple of places that we could talk about that could be interesting to come up with some ideas for. We've got the corrupted Badlands to the east, but I don't think we've had a better name for that space just yet. The corrupted, unpopulated space with a climate akin to that of Mordor from The Lord of the Rings, some larger hills and possibly mountains, spaces where ash falls from the sky and basalt makes up some of the ground mass. Large, deadly monsters roam here, mostly unchecked. Do we have any ideas? Does that breed any thoughts?
I think this one is one of the areas that I was having thinkings on, mostly because my personal project I think has similar vibes, so it's quite a bit of crossover. I do like the idea that the land itself has become so corrupted that in on itself it's like an entity. I know I've sent
Interesting.
you some of my own project for editing, but the like I created a monster called a Stromata, which is based off the fossil Stromaton light, which is like an organic mat that just kind of exists, but it being like a malicious kind of just collection of microorganisms that can just slowly eat away at things. People, I think, is quite a mundane but nasty monster. That even like when you're, because the creature itself can't really do any damage when you're like wandering around and doing stuff, but if you're camped overnight too close to them, you can wake up like encased or disease ridden by whatever these creatures are, as it slowly starts like incur upon your camp.
Interesting. Bug says like a brain worm.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being because I don't have artwork of this because it's just a microbial mat. But just
Real
like
difficult to draw that.
yeah, I think when I drew it, I was like, oh, they look like that, just a little individually. They are they look like a bacteria. Or they kind of resemble maggots.
Your D&D group gets out the microscope and starts looking through them and
I feel like
yes,
that is a running joke with my poor
we're
D&D group.
we're being eaten by these things.
Quickly, get out of the magnifying glass. But yeah, like a microbial mat, something kind of unquantifiably small. Something like very. It's not like an individual one is like a few like microns big. It's not going to do you any damage, but it's like the clusters of them, the swarms that deal the damage.
I like the idea that it's something that is it's not a threat while you're moving around on it, but like as you stop for the night, like it starts building up, and like maybe you wake up the next day and instead of being on the land where you'd gone to camp, the land has now sort of molded itself around you and you're now in a cave or something that you can't as easily escape from.
I like that. Just it's quite like a mundane, like unassuming creature. But I enjoy the aesthetic of just like a microbial film. I also had like a similar one, which also I think the visuals are just the most compelling for me. Is like a load. I don't know if you're familiar with a hagfish is or a lamprey. Um,
Yeah.
they kind of resemble like a fleshy, snotty eel.
Yep.
And just like the visual image of like them feasting, it kind of resembles like it almost looks like writhing guts, and they're very disgusting creatures to look at. The point that I want to add them into my own setting, and I've added one letter difference in the name, and I'm like that's good enough because I think they're already very charismatic little creatures and fit very well into very dark, grim settings, especially for this corrupted Badlands.
What if we had some sort of a worm that that feasts like the hagfish, where it like ejects its innards, and they like seek out the people.
Perfect time for a giggity, right?
Yes, yes.
Very gross, very cool. Well, that hagfish, what they do, they mostly feast on like dead organic matter, but they, as a defensive tactic, produce like a snot-like mucus that can like suffocate and ensnare attackers. And then if the attacker dies as a result of it, then they will eat the thing that's attacked it. Normally it doesn't. It's just like this gross slime. But offensively, just like a creature that can like produce like a disgusting glue is very gross. Especially if like you're some group of adventurers, you've come into an area that this like a nasty monster's been, and it's produced this disgusting, snotty slime.
Yeah.
And then
Bug,
you can get
it
like
is very
stuck in it.
gross.
It's very gross.
Yeah, okay. So I like this. I like my idea of a worm, and that it does this weird snotty mucus.
Yeah. Did I have some sketches of lampreys? I think I don't know if I did. Oh, I must have removed them. Hagfish. I'll quickly grab a image of one because they are incredibly strange-looking creatures.
And I think part of the thing that they've... it's not hagfish, is it? What is the fish that they say is... Or is it hagfish?
Gross
That are
little
one of the
frogs,
ones
one.
that don't look like they should, because they should be at a massive amount of pressure.
Oh, blobfish.
Blobfish, that's the one.
You said about the blobfish. I remember once. I did create something at one point. It was actually for the sake of trying to create a fantasy swear in a world which I was building.
Right.
And I wanted to come up with swear words which would make sense there, but not necessarily here. Because I like the whole idea, basically taking from Red Dwarf with Smeg. I like the idea of creating your own one so that, it has justification and makes sense in their world, not necessarily in ours. And one of the ones which I came up with was for Glob. And
Okay.
basically it was meant to be along the lines of like, you're a son of a glob and all that sort of thing, that sort of context. The glob is completely harmless. It is basically something which is just a life form which has come into existence, usually in sewers, where a mass of stuff has just sort of come down. No one really knows how they come to life, but they come to life, and it is basically just... they are just ooze. They are just ick. And about the worst thing they'll do for you is they will become a sticky substance, or a slime and slippery surface, which is very hard to move through. But it will move around and constantly go for whatever happens to be on your boots at the time, or any form of morsel of food which they can seem to get, which no one knows what they eat. They just seem to take in small things. All they know is that it will never cause harm to you, but it will cause a hindrance to you. And because of what it's made up of, it smells, it's disgusting. If you have an open wound, it will infest it. Once again, not for the sake of causing any harm, it's just this vile thing that has just been born of the ichor and the oddities which has just been flushed down people's toilets or brought in by the rain, which kind of works quite well for a corrupted place, but it is the one and only nice thing which is not nice there. It is a life form which has no brain, it has no meaning, has no function, it just is. Plus, the reason why it's a part of a swear, you are so low that you are something which just gets in the way. You're a son of a glob. But I kind of like that idea for the sake of the gameplay side as well, where these things which you don't even know how to kill them effectively, they just get in the way. They become
This is-
like an oil trap or something like that. If people have actually figured out well enough, they could literally fill up a room with them, and you've got difficult terrain to try and get through.
You know, it'd be one of the funniest things ever
What's that?
if they're actually one of the most prized delicacies in the land.
Oh! Well, at least in that nodule, anyway. Oh, just the thought of that one, considering once again they're meant to be in the sewer and picking up pretty much everything which comes by. But, ooh. Yeah, basically, they're meant to be just a massive inconvenience. So, you know, if one decides to, it gets attached to you because it likes the way that your skin tastes or so. Once again, you don't know what they're eating, you just know they're not eating you. It doesn't hurt for them to be on, it just feels really odd as this slime ball starts trying climbing up you and seems to be sucking off of your skin. Or if you tread in it, you could go sliding for ages, just for the sake that this thing just seems to have no grip and has decided to make your boots have no grip as well. And yeah, the only times you really need to worry about it is if you've got an open wound or if it tries to go in your mouth or into any of your orifices, which are most likely going to be trying to sort of block your noses up and all that side of things. Because the last thing you want is for this to protrude into your skin. Not because it's going to cause you harm directly, but because it will cause you problems down the line for the sake of illness and rot, which might just happen for the sake of what is inside that glob.
I've suggested that the glob might be something from Vectis Haven.
Okay.
As it might be a sort of side effect of the strange and corrupting
That makes sense.
process of refining Casamite, harmless unless it gets into an open wound or orifice, otherwise mostly annoying. What do we call the worms?
Gerald's. I guess it kind of depends on the modus operandi in which the worm's using. If you want to go for the gross slime pit thing, I feel like that could be the derivation of its name.
I think my note that I've written down is worms that exude a sticky mucus trail that it can use offensively to try and trap attackers and drain them of their life.
I think snare would be a good kind of thing to have in the name. Let's have a look, see if I can see any. What's the derivation of the word snare?
I mean, I would say a mixture of slip snare or slip snare. For the sake of exactly what they do, they use their slime, their slip to snare.
Slip snare works. Devil snare?
Devil snare.
I like devil snare.
That's
What
been
if
used
we-
already.
Oh. Devil snare, that's Harry Potter, isn't it?
Devil's snare is Harry Potter.
It's a shame it's a damn good one. Damn good name.
Well, actually, it is also the name of a real life weed.
Oh. The quite a nice word here. So the derivation of the word, or the etymology of the word snare, comes from German or Proto-German, a word snaro, S-N-A-R-H-O. I think it's snaro, which is quite a appealing sounding word. It could be a fun name for the snoodly creature, a snaro.
Yeah. Snarro. Yeah, Snarro seems to work quite nicely.
The trick for naming things is just looking up the etymology of the thing that it's most similar to and working from there. I also am just drawing a hagfish for this.
Snarrow. Actually, I'm going to call it the Snarrow Worm.
There we go.
Quite nice. By the way, I had an idea for your pufferfish.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, the moment you mentioned etymology, I was like, okay, let's take a look. Pyth. The Pyth. Pyff.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is literally just following the etymology of puff, which was python. But I kind of like pyth. It's that quick and sort of feels like the blowing sort of feel to it.
Yeah. And
I don't know why I've never looked into etymology before for the sake of figuring out names.
and Orca was literally, I wrote the words orca and ogre next to each other and realized there are a lot of similar letters there and just jammed the two words together. So,
It's a good way to do things. It really is.
It also works that way too. There's two other places that I want to make sure that we have at least one creature for, and I think the first one is I want to have something for the Temple of the Gygaxian.
Okay.
And so I noted the Temple of the Gygaxian / the Corrupted. The temple stands in the east of Erim and houses the spirit of the Gygaxian. While he might make an appearance later, I think it is quite far down the line. I feel that we could have a template for the Corrupted, which could be applied to other monsters or creatures that have been tempted by the whispers of his power. But also, I think it would be nice to see just some things that are... What's the weird stuff in the evil place?
I would like to throw in some kind of like shadow creatures here.
Okay, yeah.
Ooh.
To sort of throw in that they would effectively be ones which would manipulate things which are around the temple. So you would see like suits of armor seemingly coming to life and stuff like that, or random weapons being thrown, or so that their manipulation is limited as to what they can do depending on the power scale which they have. So if they're only small power, they might be like throwing rocks at you as you try to enter the temple. As you move deeper in and it gets closer to, you get these more powerful, greater hunks, which seem to be inanimate objects brought to life. And potentially even getting to a point where, as you get to these really stronger ones, you get almost like multi-level boss battles, effectively, where you break away the outer shell, but they are strong enough that they can manipulate themselves. And I like an idea of sort of effectively, if they're strong enough, that they can start to manipulate the things that are on you.
Okay.
So all of a sudden you're fighting to just have control of your own weapon, or you're trying to make sure...
Sort of a possession style.
Exactly.
Thing.
It's a kind of a possession side of things, apart from you literally see these moving shadows if your eye is keen enough. Watching them run and grab and jump and... hard to see the shadows.
I like that, actually, yeah. Yeah. You need some sort of like wraith in the name for that one.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
It's like as you go deeper into the temple, the things get more weirder, and I think we do need something in there that's eyes, teeth, and tentacles, and not much else.
Oh god, yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of these wraith Wraith.
Garwraith.
Hmm.
Right. Let's see. Darkness Wraith.
I'm enjoying the shadow creature that's being drawn.
I'm just literally drawing Eddie from Guilty Gear.
Hey, it works.
He's a little guy. He's just a little goober.
Shade, Wraith, Shade, Wraith Shade.
Wraith Shade.
Like it.
Yeah.
Once again, it's just
Because then you could lead into the idea that these creatures are the corrupted spirits or the corrupted remains of adventurers who have come before and have died.
Exactly.
Undead corrupted shadows.
Just adding words to the stat block, are we?
Yeah. You know. You're going to have to fight these things. As I said earlier when we were saying about how unkillable do you want them to be. Well, I'm DMing this. If you want to fight something unkillable, go right ahead. Make it as unkillable as you want
some
it
worms
to be.
and some microorganisms, and the other suggestions are unkillable giant bird. And I'm like, I don't know, you could probably use a web to kill this creature.
Yeah, goat's throwing in microbes, so, you know, get out the Dettol and you're fine.
Yeah.
Burn it all. Just burn it all.
Little guy.
I mean, I feel that there definitely is something that is in the Temple of the Gygaxian that is just teeth and claws and...
Oh, yeah. To be fair, the moment you end up saying that, but literally all you see is the teeth and claws, I just end up thinking, what if that's with the shades, these rape shades, actually working with it? That they cover it. That literally all you see is the eyes and the mouth, the claws, whatever happens to strike out faster than the shades can cover up. So literally you just end up seeing things launch out of the darkness right at you. But the shades effectively almost like become almost like an armor set to it. At the same time, I'll be fairing down that it is also harming them as it's thrusting forth through the shades to attack you. That, you know, as its claw comes through, it literally rips the shades from that section, which allows you to see the claw come in and try and go for the strike before the shades can try and cover it back up again. That's for the sake of exactly what it is.
Nobody's ever found out. Nobody's ever survived long enough to...
Yeah, no one has ever got through so far as to find out what it is. All that has happened is that they have literally seen the eyes burst through, the snarling teeth try to bite the great claw trying to slam down as they try to run away as fast as they can.
Lug suggests all you need is a proton pack.
Yeah.
Well, if you talk to the goblins, they might be able to make something for you.
I mean, the other question
I would love for that to be a thing where, you know, someone creates light and it just disappears. But, you know, they've literally created the world's first torch, which is as bright as the sun. You blast it in there and the darkness prevails. Will not let light in because of the shades.
Oh no, it gets worse. People are confident they think they can bring the whatchamacallits from the deserts, the anti-magic creatures. I can't remember what we call them.
The Thalmundizers.
The Thalmundizers from the deserts. That would do. No, it won't.
Yeah, these ain't magic.
No, it won't.
Even better, they're so used to that concept that effectively the moment you bring them in, your Thammondizer gets wrapped in shadow, and all of a sudden doesn't seem to be moving anymore. They attack the things which place them down that they're smart enough that they're trying to attack anything which will cause issue further in. So they will try to steal your magic weapons. They will try and do anything which nullifies magic which might cause harm later on. They're rather intelligent rather than it being just randomly doing bits and pieces. Their whole aim is to try and convince you not to go any further in, and the best way to do that is to take away any hope that you had when you first went in.
I mean, the other question I have is, do we have the idea of do we want to say that there is a corrupted Razorhax, Jacobast, or Tremodra around the temple, or do we just leave it that there is a corrupted template that we will build that can just be applied to anything that is...
Oh yeah, I like the idea of the template, that there could be anything around there.
Okay.
Pretty much so,
we'll leave
yeah.
it at that. The other location that I want to just throw out that we should come up with at least one monster for is the location number 6 on my list, which is just labeled as Monsters Are Here.
Mm.
To the south of the Desert Erim is a space where the monsters are. People don't go there because that's where the monsters are. Tanny has suggested a deity in the pantheon based on several IRL pantheons having a deity called the Mother of Monsters. In our world, in Tamrinor, that is being a non-gender specific originator of the monsters, known as the Molder of Monsters. As Bug says, it's where the wild things are, but like the really sharp and pointy ones, not the friendly ones that you write the children's books about.
I mean, to be fair, if nobody's ever come back from there, how do they know what's down there?
Well, they don't,
The
but there are going to be people that are sent there, especially because
there
that
been
is where
stories,
I'm
there would have been all sorts of different bits and pieces. There would have been information of sorts. The real question is...
I'm currently plotting the second of 2 campaigns to be running in Tamrinor, and the second one, where the wild things are, ... for adults. Asterix.
I've been really struggling with that one. I must admit, just for the sake that I want that one to be almost like that is the horror region. As creepy and as unsettling as a lot of things are, that is the one where the worst of the worst is.
I mean, my thoughts on it
thoughts,
it's Chult.
Yeah. Yeah, kinda. I could see that. As I must admit, when it came down to the concept of the Maker, my immediate thought went a little bit Silent Hill-esque. I'm thinking almost like an arachnid which had been made from human limbs. Stuff like that. And basically, taking elements which are already there and effectively thrusting them together to create other things. But I feel like thinking along the lines of like the spider and Oyster isn't with enough imagination for the monsters are here. I feel like this is the sort of where we go kind of Cthulhian. It's the stuff which you can't quite justify in your head. The reason why it scares people away before they even think to go in is that even the slightest stare at something which is relatively normal is far beyond what they would understand. And
well,
that's
we'll see.
not something which is quick enough to sort of write down. Because I'm literally thinking on like Bloodborne and stuff like that, just for sake.
It looks like where the maker played about with things.
Exactly. Really got the Play-Doh and just went for it.
Bug suggests, wouldn't the usual be a dragon, but a dragon made of every other monster?
Oh, I like that actually. And that is something which I feel like is a hefty, and that's almost like getting like Tiamat sort of style. This like the mother of monsters is fed up effectively. There have been too many who have been going around and just slaying her creations left and right, and has
Molder.
decided to give it a chance. Or the mold. It broke the mold. Made the thing that broke the mold. She wanted to give everything which had been defeated a chance of retribution, so forced it all into one.
Beak of a raven, the tail of a snake, the spikes of a pufferfish, etc.
Exactly.
Let's see. We'll see. I think that might actually just be a we'll see, and I'll just take the monsters are here location and slide it quietly off the table like one of the other locations I've already slid quietly off the table.
I will say, give us a chance. For next time, I am going to come up with some monsters. Rough ideas and all this sort of thing which we can build on. That'll be my challenge for next time.
Well, before you think of your challenge for next time, I have prepared homework for everybody.
No, I've given myself homework.
Except for
Nobody said anything about homework. Nobody said anything about homework.
So I've plotted things out. We seem to be at the wrappy up portion of this. Thank you, Goat. This is some really amazing drawings of some giant ravens and a big worm thing and a lot of other things that we talked about.
Some creatures, some little guys.
Little guys and some not so little guys.
Oh, you didn't draw a shimmerling.
Oh, that thing that you said was impossible to know the size of and shape of.
The true form.
How do you know that he hasn't drawn a shimmerling?
Yeah.
The size guide could indeed be the shimmerling. You think it's the size guide for how big those creatures are.
There he is, shimmerling now. I very quickly realized the size guide wouldn't make any sense. Just as it would just be like these two, and then the crow creature would just take up the rest of the size guide.
The entire page is the crow, the raven,
yeah.
Actually, I stand corrected. The homework was for not this time to next time, but next time to the time after. So I've plotted out where the rest of our sessions are gonna go. Because I think we had suggested at the start of this year that we wanted to get Tamrinor to a playable state by the end of this year. And I think we have proven that Tamrinor is currently at a state where we can play in it. Seeing as we have done that thing and we've played in it. But there are some things that I'd like to do before we wrap everything up in a pretty bow and finish off writing the book. And I think there is more than the... Well, two things. One, I don't want to just keep doing what we've sort of been doing where we come up with the idea for what we're going to do a few weeks beforehand. So I've come up with a list of the things that I want to get done. And I've got us sessions for the rest of this year plotted out. And then I've also got some still outstanding things that are going to spill over into 2025. So for next session, what I would like us to cover is looking at each of the species that we've created for Tamrinor and checking them against the species that appear in the new player's handbook and making sure that our species still stand up to 2024 species. I would also like to make sure that all of our species have a naming convention, because that is something that has gone missing from the 2024 Player's Handbook. And I think that is in the role of the flavor books to bring that flavor back.
Sounds to me.
And then I would also like to discuss backgrounds, because the 2024 Player's Handbook has made backgrounds more important to the players and to the characters. And I would like to not only... I would like to have 2 to 3 backgrounds that are Tamrinor exclusive.
Can I just ask something quick? Was it just me that John dropped out of? I sort of missed a bit of what John
I
was
lost a
saying.
bit of that, yeah. I'm afraid I did as well. Yeah.
How far back do I need to go? Because I didn't drop out for me.
Just that last little bit about what what you want to have done.
I was going to say the entire stream, but
hello.
No, it's just that last bit.
When the player's handbook comes out.
Exactly.
So basically, it would be, one, I want to look at the species and make sure that our species still stand up to the 2024 Player's Handbook species. I want to make sure that all of our species have a naming convention, because the 2024 Player's Handbook has dropped the naming conventions of each of the species. And so I think it's in the role of the flavor books to add that back in again. And then backgrounds are much more important in the 2024 Player's Handbook. They add your ability score improvements come from your background now instead of your species. And so I would like to discuss 2 or 3 backgrounds, at least 2 or 3 backgrounds that are Tamrinor exclusive backgrounds.
Okay.
And so that would be that they are things that your characters would have done prior to going out and being an adventurer, that give them a set of 3 abilities that they have an improvement in, a feat as well. So we can discuss those in next session. In November, I've got the idea of doing more to the deities. We have 12 deities that are worshipped within Tamrinor. So I would like to... I've split the Tamrinorian deities up so that each of the standard council members have 3 of them.
Okay.
And I would like each of us to take those 3 and come up with a holy day for them, and 3 commandments that they request their followers, or that their followers follow. And so that would be our November discussion, would be coming back together and making sure that everybody has done their homework and that everybody else likes the homework that has been done. And then December, I would like us to discuss I want to write questions for players making characters in this world. And I want those questions to be open-ended questions based on the class that you are playing, and some of those will be for the person themselves, as, for instance, like, why did you go down this route? Why are you setting out now to be an adventurer? That sort of thing. But also some that will be a connection to the rest of the party. So things like, Ben, your character and my character share a secret that I told you back at the campfire. Why did I trust you with this secret? And why will you never tell anyone? So that you get some sort of character building assistance with why your character is this class, and why you're setting off now to be an adventurer, and why your party knows each other, if you are building a group that knows each other.
Sense.
And then I have a few listed out that we'll cover next year, which is things like talking about the extra dimensional planes, discussing a little bit more about the factions, maybe discussing the elf dilemma, talking about magic items and specifically artifacts within Tamrinor, discussing where is adulthood for the species, plant life and farming. For instance, how do the avians handle farming at the top of a mountain? What are the clothing styles of the different races and the different locations? That one might be one that we draft back in again, random Shan, because she does the clothings. So yeah, I think there's still some stuff left to go. There's not a huge amount, but there is an amount that would be nice to discuss before we are done. But we are getting there.
I think I agree with you.
And I've also got some other NPCs and some adventurers that I've been writing up in the book as examples of who you might bump into, and some of those have been characters that we've previously seen in the playtest game. I've written those characters up as characters that you might, as a GM, run for other people, and some others that we haven't yet seen in playtest, but we might see in future playtests of Tamrinor, in that, as I say, Shan went away last week and has been sending me place names that are interesting, and two of them immediately sparked those names. Like, they're not going on the list. Those are just a pair of adventurers on their own. And stand by at some point for the adventures of Trink and Tregwidgeon, the dwarf adventurer and the forged wanderer that follows him round. Follows her around. Trink, I decided, was a female based on random dice rolling. But that's all I've got for this time. Does anyone else have anything else they want to say at the end of this?
No, I'm quite happy, I think.
Well,
thank you to Goat for joining us. Hope you've had a fun time with us, mostly rambling away about weird slimy monsters and lots of teeth and unknowable things that look like a chair to one person and a giraffe to somebody else, despite giraffes not existing yet.
When I was being described, I was like, I cannot draw this. I'm just not.
To be fair, it was one of those things where it
success.
wasn't meant to, but I can literally just imagine what it comes down to. Like, I imagine like D&D page trying their best, which is effectively two adventurers, and almost like a split down the middle of it, with the creature in the middle, with one side being an elaborate thing sticking off And the other side is literally just a goblin picking his nose.
Thank you guys in the chat for watching. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that follow button. It's a great way for you guys to know when we go live. A completely free way that you can support us on the channel. It really, really does mean a lot to us. We have a YouTube channel that you can follow to catch up on all of our previous videos. We have a Discord you can join to chat with us about anything that we're doing, but we do have a space on that Discord to discuss with us Tamrinor and the building of Tamrinor. We also have a website, finalbossfight.co.uk, that you can go to catch up on all of the things that we do, including upcoming events that we're going to be a part of, including hopefully soon I will get full confirmation that myself and Geoff are going to be at Dragon Meet at the end of November, which will be exciting. We enjoyed Dragon Meet last year, and hopefully it will be just as good this year. And we'll go in a little bit harder this time because we did not know what we were expecting.
We know what we're doing now, basically.
We know what we're doing this time.
Wait, we do?
Some of us know what we're doing this time, maybe. I don't want to overpromise. We have some ideas. But let's have a quick look at the streams that are coming up this week, and it's a little bit of a light week, he said, saying that there are streams at the start and end of it. There's a lot of streams sort of sandwiching the week. Tomorrow night on Rime of the Frost Maiden, the group are dealing with Cherish's long-missing sister, who is now shooting them with arrows, which is, you know, fun for everyone.
That's always fun. That's always fun thing happens.
On Monday, myself, Michael, and hopefully Sean are going to be playing some Satisfactory because that game is finally out now.
Satisfactory.
Satisfactory is fully released. 1.0 is out now, and we can flush the toilet, amongst other new things.
Most important update ever.
Yes. I don't know what to expect. They've said there's a story now on top of the factory builder, so there's maybe that will find some story happening. On Friday, assuming my trains are running perfectly on time, as they should hopefully be, the Golden Tooth and the Shattered Obelisk continues as the group descend further into Talhundrath and possibly down into the depths of the Crypt of the Talhund. And then Saturday next week, it is the final boss fight quiz night, where the group are going to be facing devious questions about the Bronze Age, history, the Olympics, and a round on Tolkien or IKEA furniture.
Sorry, I kept saying.
And don't forget, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week, the Angel Games player is actually not around because they're on holiday. So nothing is happening on other days this week. Those middle days of the week, they don't exist.
I might be jumping in at one point as well. It's worth keeping your eyes open, if nothing else, because I'm stuck in flat. I can't go anywhere. So as long as I've got painkillers up and all that side of things, I might as well do some streaming.
Ben may be streaming.
In the game.
Tune in to when Ben may or may not be streaming. So keep an eye on the Discords.
Exactly. Another reason to come to the Final Boss Fight Discord.
In the meantime, we're going to find somebody who is live now that we wish to raid into, and my first choice would be that guy. Is that guy doing the thing still? It looks like he is. We're going to go and raid into Clappy Von Trapp, who is playing Dark Souls Remastered. Go give your love to Clappy. We'll see you guys again real soon.